The bandit theory of the origin of the state is an influential concept within political theory and anthropology, particularly in the works of Friedrich Engels and later theorists. This theory attempts to explain the emergence of the state from pre-state societies by positing that the state originated as an instrument of power and control used by elites to dominate others. Historical context and theoretical foundations. Friedrich Engels, in his seminal work The Origin of the Family, Private Property and the State, 1884, developed the bandit theory, building upon the materialist conception of history pioneered by Karl Marx. Engels argued that the state was not a natural or inevitable development but a product of specific historical conditions. According to Engels, the state emerged as a mechanism for managing the contradictions and conflicts inherent in increasingly complex societies. Engels's theory is rooted in a materialist understanding of history, which asserts that social structures and institutions evolve from material conditions and economic relations. The bandit theory extends this analysis to the formation of political institutions, suggesting that the state arose not as a form of organized social cooperation but as an instrument of oppression and control. The concept of the bandit state. Engels used the term bandit state to describe the early forms of the state, particularly in the context of how power and authority were consolidated. According to Engels, the bandit state represents a stage in the evolution of political organization where power was concentrated in the hands of a few individuals or groups. This concentration of power was achieved through coercion and violence, effectively turning the state into an apparatus for managing and suppressing dissent. The central idea of the bandit theory is that the early state functioned similarly to a bandit or pirate gang. Just as a bandit group imposes its will on a population through force and intimidation, early states maintained their power through coercive means. Engels argued that these early states were characterized by their reliance on militaristic and authoritarian methods to enforce their control, rather than through consent or democratic processes. Development of the theory. Engels's bandit theory is situated within a broader analysis of the evolution of human societies. Engels proposed that the transition from primitive communal societies to more complex social structures involves several stages, each marked by increasing levels of inequality and specialization. The state, in this view, emerged as a response to the growing complexities of social life, particularly the need to manage property relations and social hierarchies. 1. Primitive communal societies. Engels posited that early human societies were organized around communal and egalitarian principles. These societies were characterized by a lack of formal political structures and were organized around kinship and mutual aid. 2. Emergence of property and class divisions. With the advent of agriculture and the accumulation of surplus goods, Engels argued that property relations began to shift. The emergence of private property led to the development of social classes and increased economic inequality. 3. Formation of the state. According to Engels, the state arose as a means of managing these new social divisions. The state was not a neutral entity but a tool used by the ruling class to consolidate and maintain power. The transition from a communal to a state-based society involved the establishment of formal institutions, such as governments and legal systems, designed to enforce the interests of the elite. The role of violence and coercion. One of the core elements of the bandit theory is its emphasis on the role of violence and coercion in the formation of the state. Engels argued that the early state relied on militaristic and authoritarian measures to maintain order and control. This perspective contrasts with more idealistic views of the state as a product of social contract or collective agreement. Engels suggested that the state's reliance on violence was evident in its use of military forces and legal systems to suppress dissent and enforce compliance. The state's coercive functions included the enforcement of laws, the administration of justice, and the management of public order. Engels viewed these functions as mechanisms for maintaining the dominance of the ruling class and ensuring the reproduction of social hierarchies. Criticisms and alternatives. The bandit theory has faced various criticisms and alternative interpretations from scholars and theorists. Some of the main critiques include: 1. Oversimplification of state formation. Critics argue that the bandit theory oversimplifies the complex processes involved in the formation of the state. The theory is seen as reducing the state's emergence to a mere exercise in coercion, neglecting other factors such as cultural, economic, and ideological influences. 2. Lack of empirical evidence. Some scholars question the empirical basis of the bandit theory, suggesting that Engels's analysis may not fully account for the diversity of state formations across different societies. The theory's reliance on historical and anthropological data from a limited range of sources may limit its generalizability. 3. Alternative theories. Alternative theories of state formation have emerged, offering different perspectives on the state's origins. For example, social contract theories, as proposed by thinkers like Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, emphasize the role of mutual agreement and consent in the formation of political institutions. Similarly, theories of state formation based on institutional development and administrative efficiency highlight the role of bureaucracy and governance in shaping the state. Contemporary relevance. Despite criticisms, the bandit theory remains relevant in contemporary discussions of state formation and political power. The theory's focus on the role of violence and coercion in maintaining social order provides valuable insights into the dynamics of power and authority. It also contributes to a critical understanding of how states can serve the interests of specific groups at the expense of broader societal needs. In modern contexts, the theory can be applied to analyze the formation and functioning of states with authoritarian or repressive regimes. By examining how these states use violence and coercion to maintain control, scholars can gain a deeper understanding of the mechanisms underlying political power and state formation. The bandit theory of the origin of the state, as articulated by Friedrich Engels, offers a provocative perspective on the emergence of political institutions. By framing the state as a tool of power and control used by elites, the theory challenges more idealistic views of state formation and emphasizes the role of violence and coercion in maintaining social order. While the theory has faced criticisms and alternative interpretations, it remains an influential framework for understanding the dynamics of political power and the historical development of the state.